Hello there, and welcome to the Time Machine with Trish and Mike. I'm Mike.
And I'm Trish.
And we're glad you're back with us once again this week, as we are every week. We're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for spending your time with us. I don't know if you're commuting or in your kitchen baking, but it is appreciated.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah. Do you not listen to podcasts when you're baking?
I do. I listen to podcasts a lot, but I like that idea. See, because here we go again talking about food, because we do this all the time. Why do we record the show when we're hungry?
It doesn't even matter what time either. Like, we recorded at lunchtime, we've recorded in the afternoon, we've recorded at nighttime. Like, it doesn't matter.
We've recorded this thing at like 1 a.m. once. I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like you just get
Apparently
hungry.
We just like food.
I mean,
It's
I
fine.
just had lunch like an hour and a half ago, and I could eat again.
I just had I had like toast with peanut butter. I was very disappointed. I was out of jam. It's like, dang it. Oh well. Say la vie.
Yeah, people were disappointed down here in Florida this week because it was cold.
Very cold. I kept thinking of the poor iguanas.
Like Sunday morning here, it was 33.
That's cold for you guys.
It was, but to be honest with you,
That's chilly.
The thing was, there really wasn't much wind.
See, that's key.
That really made a big difference. Like I went outside Sunday morning and it was 33, 34, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I've got a jacket on. I'm not like, whatever, but you could have told me it was like 55 and I would have believed it because it was just cold. It's not.
Yeah. Once you throw in the wind, oh, it's brutal. The wind chill is the worst.
Last weekend, it was not quite as cold, but it was windy. So it felt colder, so.
Yep. See, and last week it was nice. And then, of course, we had to dip back down into the chilly temps, which I'm like, oh, can we go back to like +8, which is probably like, I don't know, 42 for you, maybe?
Something like that. Yeah.
It feels warm.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be like 80 today. So, Thursday as we're.
That'll be too hot then.
Yeah. Or 79 or 80, whatever. So we've gone for like, it's a huge swing. So.
Yeah, that's when I feel bad for people who have, like when you get migraines or nosebleeds from the barometric pressure changes. Oh, it's got to be brutal when it swings that quickly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of barometric pressure and pressure changing.
Oh, no, Mike. No.
It's a terrible transition, but
it's a terrible transition, my friend. And actually, we had talked about this story. Was it last week or the week before?
We were talking it briefly
with American Pie.
Yes. And so that kind of ties in to the day the music died, which was February 3rd, 1959. And that is when Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper unfortunately died in a plane crash. Yeah,
in a cornfield near Clear Lake, Iowa.
Well,
that's just tragic.
If the lake is clean, it's probably clear. So
this is true. So it can tie in. It can work.
I mean, you'd be in the wrong city, but if we're going for descriptive purposes, it would work.
It's like, now, is there a clean lake, Iowa?
No. There may be clean lakes in Iowa, but I don't know if there's a clean lake Iowa, if that makes anyway. So
anyway, we digress.
Yes.
This is just Trish making mistakes.
This is what happens when you start with a morbid topic.
Yeah, we got to find humor any way we can. Yeah, it's kind of, if you think about, these guys were so young, right? Because they had become so famous at such a young age. Like Buddy Holly earned his first paycheck singing at age 5. He earned $5, which would have been, a pretty big deal back in the day.
That's a lot of money. Like, first of all, to a 5-year-old, I mean, even now, I don't know how much, if $5
even my kids, they get $5. They're like, woo, they get to go to the dollar store. It's been exciting times. I mean,
$5 doesn't go as far as it did back when we were kids, but but for that era, I mean, $5, I don't have an inflation calculator in front of me, but that's probably got to be about $15-20, which that's a lot of money to a 5-year-old.
Exactly. So, they're just so young. And then you just think of all the talent and like how inspirational they were in such a short amount of time. Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the music business is unfortunately littered with accidents of this kind, plane crashes, car crashes, that sort of thing. And it, especially for the era, it's kind of like it somewhat makes sense because, private travel and jets and that sort of thing were still, work in progress. They're not as advanced as they are now. And so you kind of get it because of just the constant travel that they have to do, that these things, unfortunately, are going to happen. I mean, I guess the most recent example of something like this probably would be when Aaliyah died in the plane. And that's been over 20 years ago. And that was really just because they overloaded the plane. The plane was too heavy. That was really what caused that issue. So thankfully, we don't have these occurring near as often, and especially as we once did.
Then, like in the 50s,
in the 50s and 60s, every few years, something like that's happening. Right.
That's scary. Well, and to put it into context, that $5 in 1959, when the accident occurred, it would have been worth about $50. So
okay, so it's probably
bring that back like a decade.
Right. I was going to say, if you go back to when he was 5, it's even less than that, or more than that, rather.
More than that.
So, yeah. Give $50 to a 5-year-old right now. They'd lose their give me $50. I'll take.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to sneeze at $50. I can think of a few things.
I can go have a nice dinner with that,
Well,
I mean, it's not going to be a truck payment for me, but
it's a nice dinner.
A nice dinner. Yeah. Exactly.
Dinner and a movie if we were going to movies and dinner.
Yeah, which I got to do dinner and a movie a few months back when Spider-Man came out. So
it's true.
That was nice. I went to 2 movies last year. I went to Spider-Man and Ghostbusters. So look forward to going to more movies.
Yeah, you have to pick and choose the ones that you're going to go to.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But those two
were. If I'm going to chance the COVID, I'm going to pick the good movie.
And those 2 are worth it for me. I was willing to take the risk. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, you have not been to a theater yet since COVID. So you're coming up almost 2 years of no movies for Trish.
No movies in a movie theater for Trish. Just all digital releases. No going to the gym. Oh my gosh. I was talking to the other day about just missing the gym. I have some coworkers that are starting to go out. But for me, I don't know. It's so much work to have to miss at least 5 days. And that's the minimum, right? If I end up with COVID, I have to do 5 days and then 5 days fully masked following it, as long as I don't have symptoms. Whereas I had a coworker who was out for over 2 weeks because his symptoms didn't go away.
Yeah, but you could still teach if you're home with COVID. It's not like you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I can teach and there can be a sub in the room.
Gotcha.
Or I can resort to I have emergency plans and I have emergency COVID plans.
Always
they can be accessed by the admin team. Always prepared.
See, because when you're a kid, sometimes you get a sub and it would just be movie day. And that's when you kind of knew well, teacher didn't plan to be out that day. So we're watching a movie today. And 85 years ago, you could have watched, well, not in a classroom because it would have been in theaters, but you could have gone and seen Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs because that was released on February 4th, 1938.
Now, my mom, she said this was the first movie she saw in theater. She's not 85. But obviously it was being re-released in the movie theater and she said she remembers going and that it was obviously a very big deal, right?
Yes, no, movies were definitely a big deal.
It would have been a very big treat.
Actually 84 years ago, not 85. Wherever we sourced our information on this is not correct.
Oh, I was going to be did Mike make a math?
Oh, Mike didn't.
Mistakes?
Mike didn't. Mike caught the math mistake.
Excuse me.
From the notes Trish provided.
That might have been mine. That might have been mine.
I'm just saying.
What I find interesting is Walt Disney came up with the idea to bring Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs to the big screen when he was only 15 years old, after seeing a silent film version of the classic fairy tale in Kansas City. Isn't that neat?
That is neat. I know we've talked about it before, but man, Walt Disney, what a cool dude.
Such an visionary, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I say this, I'm 35 minutes from a theme park that he started.
He created.
Right. But it's just I look at him and people like him and Steve Jobs, and it's yes, their companies have continued to have success, but man, just the visionary and this is what we're going to do and we're going to figure out how to make it happen kind of attitude is something I think really both companies are kind of missing a little bit to a certain extent.
Well, and to overcome such things, like to still be able to succeed despite, like, they had budget issues, right? They had originally budgeted $250,000, but there was lots of different delays for different reasons. And so the budget then ballooned to $1.5 million. And Disney later had to mortgage his own home to finance it. So, like, you're taking a big gamble.
Oh, yeah.
And it took 3 years to produce. They started in 1934.
Well, that's the thing especially back then, all this stuff was being drawn by hand.
Yeah.
Every cell had to be drawn. I mean, you're reusing backgrounds, but every motion of a character is being drawn by hand. We did not have the computers and everything we do now with movies.
Do you want to know how many artists worked on it?
Probably 50.
They said over 750 artists completed more than 2 million sketches.
Yeah, 750. That's exactly what I said.
That's exactly, yeah.
Oh, geez. I mean, that's
a lot of people that you're paying, right? Can you imagine? No wonder he had to mortgage his house.
And maybe it's just me, but there's a lost art there with not having the hand-drawn animation. I get it. It's a different era and we have the technology and I wouldn't want to draw something, a million times like that when I could do a few clicks on a computer and do it. But it's a lost art in the sense that like stop motion animation is kind of a lost art. You still have a little bit of it here and there with some things, but it's just a very different set of skills and talent. Like
what would be the last stop motion? Like Wallace and Gromit?
I was just gonna say that's the only
one I can think of.
Example. I mean, maybe a commercial or something here or there for like Coke or whatever, but as a feature length or even a cartoon based thing, I would say it has to be that.
You're right. There is just a interesting quality to a movie when you watch it when it's hand drawn.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, speaking of hands,
I know. I was like, I don't really know how to transition into this one.
I got you.
Okay.
A very famous lick on a keyboard from David Paich of the band Toto, as on this day, February 5th, 1983, Toto was the number one song in America.
Or Africa was the number one song.
What did I say? That's a
you said Toto.
Toto was the number one. Toto had the number one song.
Toto had the number one
that
song.
That song was Africa.
How many you cannot not listen to Africa and you have to belt it out. It's just
it totally has to be a pick-me-up song.
Yeah.
Like if you're having a crappy day and that comes on the radio, you're like, all right, nothing's going right, but for the next 5 minutes, I'm good.
This is going right. This is good. It's like you are a monster if you don't belt out this song in your car.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Do you know how many times it has been streamed on Spotify?
Oh, I'm going to get it so wrong. I don't know. Like streamed this year or streamed total?
Cumulative total.
Total. I'm going to say 800 million.
Close.
Am I?
It's over 1 billion.
Oh, no, I'm not close.
Well, but you didn't say 8 million.
Okay. That's true. I'm getting better.
Billion.
I'm getting better.
I'll give you. But here's what's actually interesting. That does not even crack the top 100 most streamed songs. So as of the last update I have on this chart is a couple of weeks ago. So there may be a slight variation.
So don't hold it against us.
Actually, I take that back. This is as of last Saturday, so the 28th of January.
Okay.
So this is fairly up to date. The 100th song is at 1.26 billion.
Wow. What song is that? Do we know? Does it say?
That is Psycho by Post Malone featuring Ty Dolla $ign.
Okay. Ty Dolla $ign.
Yes.
Okay.
In case you're curious, the top 5 most streamed songs on Spotify. Number 5, Someone You Loved by Louis Capaldi. That has been streamed 2.23 billion times.
Wow.
Rockstar by Post Malone featuring 21 Savage, 2.34 billion. Number 3 is Dance Monkey by Tones and I
Yeah, and like 1 billion of those is from my daughter. Like, oh my God, if I didn't have to hear that song again, I would be a very happy person.
Okay, I'm really gonna show my age. I don't think I know what that song is.
Oh,
I
dance
might.
for me, dance for me, dance for me.
Okay, so
anyway, you got to Google it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to because I think I've avoided hearing that 2.46 billion times. Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, 2.76 billion. That I know.
I know that one.
And the number one most streamed song on Spotify ever, just over 3.03 billion times. Shape of You by Ed Sheeran.
Really?
Yes.
That's surprising.
I would not have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed any of this top 5, if I'm being honest with you, but I would not have thought that would be number one.
Wow. That's really surprising.
Yeah.
It really is something to think about.
Ed Sheeran, by the way, has the, if you take this top 100, he is second with 5 songs on the list. Justin Bieber and Post Malone have 7 songs on the list.
And really, it's like, I guess I've heard some Post Malone, but it would never have been something in like the topness of my lists.
Yeah, and Imagine Dragons is 3. They have 4 songs on the list.
Imagine Dragons is wicked catchy.
Yeah.
They're just good.
So there you go. There's your Spotify.
Interesting.
So I do have an interesting story before we move on real quick about the song Africa. So
do tell.
Yes. So a artist in Nambia in Africa, his name is Max Seidentoff. I may have butchered that, but I tried.
We'll give you some grace.
He has set up a sound installation in the Niam Desert. He hasn't said where he set this up. So this desert is like, huge. It's like 81,000 square kilometers. So it's a big,
it's a massive.
So he has set up 6 speakers connected to an MP3 player with a single track on it. And that track is, of course, Africa. So, and I guess there's got to be a solar component to power this thing or whatever. And so this song is playing
somewhere on the plains of Africa.
On the plains of Africa permanently until this device dies and whatnot, and hopefully somebody can go replace it, much like the Poe toaster that we talked about last year for Edgar Allan Poe. So maybe we can.
So now, instead of that age-old question of does a tree make noise when it falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does Toto's Africa still play on the plains of Abraham? Wow, that's showing my Canadianism on the plains of Africa. If no one's around to hear it.
I will say, sure. We will just have to trust that the song is still playing.
That'd be so random. You just like walking along, suddenly just hear that belted out in the middle of.
Oh, could you imagine like walking through that desert and you start hallucinating or something? You're like, I think I hear Africa.
Is this Toto?
Am I dying?
Well, he did say that it was like God channeling. I sang the chorus out as you hear. Not that talented. Something just happened here.
Yes, something did just happen here. We just totally lost you, but I think you're back now. So we'll.
I thought we lost you.
No, I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. Start
I was going to say. It is like he's quoted as saying that it was like God channeling the song. So he says, "I sang the chorus out as you hear it. It was like God channeling it. I thought I'm talented, but I'm not that talented. Something just happened here." So yeah, you'd be walking along and be like, God.
Well, no, because that happens when, you hear stories sometimes of, songwriters.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff. The ideas just come to you and you could write a song in 20 minutes and it could be a hit. And you can also have a song that takes forever to write.
You struggle with forever. I wonder how long it took a certain song that we're going to talk about next to write.
We'll get to that in just a second. But I'm going to go see the Eagles in a few weeks, and Hotel California has a very iconic guitar riff, at the beginning. And they had that guitar riff for a while, but they just never had a song to go with it.
Right.
And one day they were like, hey, whatever happened to that guitar riff? And they played it, and boom, the lyrics.
They bring it back.
Yeah.
Here I was trying so hard, Mike, to get a good transition for you.
I know, and I ruined it, but I just,
I do like that fact, though.
Yeah, it's just because, but that's, and that's how the song Africa came. You had the riff, and it was boom. The lyrics just kind of poofed. Yeah. Speaking of poofing, I was just going to let you just make up something. poof, there went Trisha's a transition that she had.
It was gone. It's all good. But I was trying to allude to we have a very important birthday of February 6, 1914, Thurl Ravenscroft's birthday. So you might know him as the deep baritone voice of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. But I was really surprised when I read this, that he was the voice of Tony the Tiger for 5 decades. So that's where my heart lies with him, is that iconic voice.
Which shows his range as a voice actor, because it's 2 very distinct voices. In that, it's You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. It's very deep and resonant, Whereas Tony the Tiger, he kind of has some of that. There's a real richness to the voice, but great. It goes up a lot more than You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch does. I mean, I guess
it's more cheery.
Yes.
Yeah.
A tad, you think? I think it might be a little bit.
Well, I mean, in terms of the cadence going up, it's more happy.
Right.
I don't know. You're the music one. I'm not the music one.
Yeah.
Well, you understand these things.
Yeah, that's why I'm commenting on it. And you're doing a fine job.
Yay.
You do have Frosted Flakes in Canada, right?
We do have Frosted Flakes
with Tony on it. Because I didn't know.
Tony the Tiger.
Well, I didn't know if, maybe you're just seeing it on American TV commercials or something. And you're like, oh, there's this great cereal with this tiger and I can't eat him. The cereal, not the tiger. That wouldn't end well. Probably.
That would not bode well.
Like last week, it was National Hug Day and Squirrel Appreciation Day. Just don't combine those two.
Don't hug the squirrel. No, it's a bad idea.
It doesn't end well. Now, okay, do you have the Frosted Flakes with marshmallows?
I don't think so. I haven't seen them. I don't really buy cereal. I'm not like a cereal person, to be honest.
Well, to be fair, you have 8 options,
Yeah, there's not. We've been getting more, but who produces Trix? Is it Post?
General Mills.
So we don't get any General Mills cereal.
Okay, so you don't get Cheerios.
Do we get Cheerios? Is that the same?
Yeah.
Oh, well, whatever. We don't get Trix. We don't get
maybe you just don't get some of their brands then, because you get you get Lucky Charms, right?
Yep, we get Lucky Charms.
Okay, that's General Mills. You get Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, obviously. That's
we have
Kellogg's.
Frosted Flakes and Corn Flakes.
Okay, so then who do you not get?
You always have those fancy ones. that are all fun.
Oh yeah, and then you get all the movie spinoff cereals and stuff that we get.
Let's see. I'm gonna bring it up.
All right.
Believe it or not, many kinds of cereal we know and love in the U.S. are not available in Canada. So Cocoa Pebbles, Cookie Crisp, Fruity Pebbles.
Post. It sounds like Post cereals then.
Yeah. So I guess we're limited to the Post cereals that we do get. I like this. The reason some American cereal has to be smuggled into Canada is the name of this article.
As I have done this for you before.
Yeah. As anytime I have a Canadian, I'm like, yes, please send me that. Let me see if I can find it very quick. It just says different countries have different regulations. So some food items are allowed. So it's probably because of the dyes that are being used.
That could be.
Or certain preservatives.
I could see that. Yeah. For context, anyone perhaps in Canada that has not been to the United States. So you have what, like I said,
interesting.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say so you can't get Count Chocula. And they say the main reason you can't buy it in Canada is the difference in regulations for vitamins and mineral fortification. American cereals contain amounts of fortified vitamins at a much higher level that is permitted in Canada. And another factor keeping American cereals off Canadian shelves is the labels. While the U.S. uses the imperial measuring system, Canada uses obviously the metric. This means labels have to be reformulated, and not all companies will pay for it. So we can't get Trix because they won't reformulate the boxes and pay for it.
See, you would think you could get a Canadian distributor who would do that.
Yeah.
Because I know on food that you have sent me before, and granted, Canada's a bilingual country, you have English and French, but a lot of the stuff is in both.
All of our stuff is.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Now there's some places that specialty stores that will import, I think, some of these, but for the most part, I know Trix is in Saskatchewan, but again, health is always a provincial thing. So they might have slightly different regulations.
Makes sense. And where I was going with this originally, anyone listening to us in Canada that has not been to the States, you literally you have like what, 8 or 9 cereal options maybe up there.
There's like a few more, but like when you showed me, we've toured the grocery store.
Yes.
And like you have a massive cereal aisle, and I'm like, what? Like we have like this section.
Yeah, we seriously have practically an entire aisle of cereal.
Okay, next time you go to the store, you try and take like a picture that will depict the size of your cereal, and I'll go to my local store that I shop at, and I'll take a picture.
Deal.
We'll post it side by side.
We will do this.
Okay.
Happy cereal
day. Show
the
difference.
Yes.
Happy cereal day.
I don't know when it is, but just happy cereal day, because it has to be a thing, right?
It has to be a thing. There's so many things.
Everything is a thing. Like I know March is National Frozen Food Month or whatever. National Cereal Day. Monday, March 7th, 2022. At least here.
We're not too far off.
In the United States. I don't know when Canada is. Probably because you don't have one, because it's depressing to think about. But speaking of selling,
steal your day.
Yeah, just take it. You steal everything else from us. Anyway.
Again, another thing that I'm not good at is the next story.
Yes.
You can conclude it includes math.
I'll take things Trish is not good at for 400, Alex. So selling does tie into selling cereal. On February 7th, 1935, the first Monopoly game was sold.
Yeah, it's an old game.
Yes. So that game is almost 90 years old. Crazy to think that it's been around that long. Like right. I would not.
That's still so popular.
Right. I mean, I would not have thought that it was that old. Like if you just randomly asked me.
Yeah. Like so popular that it's got over 300 different versions, right? There's Star Wars, Pokemon, Game of Thrones. I have the Ghostbuster one that actually our guest from last week, Andy, Crazy Cocoa Butter, sent me.
And I do as well as from him. Yeah, and then there's all the different knockoff versions that probably aren't official Monopoly. Like I know you were in our pre-meeting, you mentioned you have a hometown version.
Yeah, so I have the one about Antigonish, and it has like all the different places from my hometown, like the Wheel Pizzeria and stuff like that. But it's not, like you said, a licensed version. It's just a knockoff. Right.
And like I've seen Florida versions and Orlando versions, and then of course you have like Disney versions, but those are obviously, those are legit.
Yeah, those are the legit ones.
You don't use the mouse without paying for it. Does not
don't
end
cross
well.
Disney.
Don't do that. That's not
it's definitely not one of my favorite games, though. To be honest, I get really grumpy when I play it.
Well, it's probably because you're not winning, because you're not good at math.
I'm not good at math, but like it just takes so long. And like I find, so I can play Risk, and that takes a long time. I'm okay with that. But there's something about Monopoly where you're like, finally, it's just like, okay, like we all know who's gonna win. Can you just put us out of our misery?
Okay, so note to self: no virtual game night with Trish.
No virtual game night, just not including Monopoly.
Not Monopoly. Well, we can't play like Operation or Trouble.
That's true.
Or Mousetrap.
You could play Trouble.
Well, yeah, but we're not popping the thing.
Well, you could have your board game at your house and my board game, and you just pop yours, and I'll move your figure on my board, and I'll pop mine, and you move my figure on your board. Yeah. We'll just sync up.
Okay.
I actually really like collaborative board games, to be honest, like Forbidden Island or I haven't really had a hankering to play Pandemic, in the last 2 years, but
understandable.
Before
bad vibes.
Before March 2020, I did like to play me some Pandemic.
Or we just find a virtual. We'll find like Wheel of Fortune on Switch, and we'll just play that one night.
Oh, okay.
Does that work for you?
Mm-hmm. Okay. That works.
We can do that. Pandemic. Gosh, I had something I wanted to say about Pandemic board games. What did you just say before that? Before playing
like
Pandemic?
Forbidden Island?
No.
I like collaborative board game.
Collaborative board game. I don't know. I think the moment
has. In.
Yes. Join us in 2 episodes when I randomly remember what the hell I was going to say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. If you remember.
There are Star Wars versions. There's Harry Potter versions. That of course ties us into our next topic, because on February 8th, 1932, the one, the only Mr. John Williams was born. He, of course, the composer, fair to say the composer of our childhoods.
Yes, I would agree.
Think of all the movies that he has done, like I said, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Superman, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, E.T.
So many.
Tons of movies.
Yeah.
We did my senior year in high school. In my piano class, we had to do reports on different composers. And so me and my friend Kristen, we got paired up, and I was like, hey, let's do John Williams. And she's like, oh, that's a good idea. So we, did a little bit of research on him. And so what we did was we turned our presentation into a game show.
Very fun. Your teacher must have been so impressed.
She liked it. She thought it was pretty creative. So Kristen had downloaded all the iconic songs, like the Star Wars songs, Superman, etc. And so she went over to the CD player, and she'd play a clip, and I got to be like the game show host, and okay, who wants to guess which song this is, what movie this is, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah.
That would be, I think I would get them all. I would still get them all wrong. I'd be like, oh, I know this. I know it, but I would never be able to like place it.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Very cool.
One thing John Williams has not done, though, is the Simpsons.
Nope.
He did not write that theme song.
He did not.
That was, of course, by Danny Elfman. But on February 9th, 1997, The Simpsons became the longest running primetime cartoon, passing the Flintstones.
Yeah.
And yet, go ahead.
I was going to say, as of January 2nd, 2022, they have 717 episodes.
I was just going to say, and here we are in 2022, and the show is still on the air, which if you had told me then, back in 97, that The Simpsons would still be on the air 25 years later, and now we're crazy. 33 years into The Simpsons run, I wouldn't have believed it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Be like, really? Does it have that much of a staying power?
Because I don't know about you. I think we may have discussed The Simpsons at one point last year. I watched it for a while, and then kind of like with anything, you kind of move on,
Yeah, like I can't remember the last time I actually watched like a new episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's been years for sure.
A long, yeah.
I mean, it might even be 10 years ago since I've watched an episode, if I'm being honest. I mean, I catch a repeat or repeat. Where did that come from? I might go watch like an old episode or something. Like when Disney Plus started, I had to go watch a Simpsons on there just like to really believe that the Simpsons were on Disney Plus, because that still blows my mind.
That's true. I think actually I did put on not this Halloween, but last Halloween, I put on the Treehouse of Horrors for my kids for Halloween. So I guess I watched it last year, but I mean, did I sit down and watch it? No, I was probably marking while they were watching it, but I do use some Simpson episodes. Like when we do the Telltale Heart or the Raven with Poe, I'm like, okay, guys, we're going to watch the little Simpsons episode of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
now, there you go. Let's go back to 1992 when people are all worked up over the content of The Simpsons. And here we are. You're using it in a classroom.
I know, right? My mother would be horrified.
But I mean, to be fair, The Simpsons, when it started, it was very, pushing what was the envelope at the time. But when you look at it compared to practically anything else on TV nowadays, and granted, as I just admitted, I don't watch current episodes. Maybe they push it a little bit, but I don't really hear any controvery with The Simpsons like you did back then. So my point is, it's really tame, or even you go back to because all those early Fox shows like Simpsons, Married with Children, they were kind of pushing the edge, or pushing the boundaries, right to the edge on what was acceptable or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's like now I have grade 8s
now.
watching like Squid Games and like The Witcher. And I'm like, okay, you guys are like 13, right? I haven't lost my marbles.
Right. I need to teach your parents about parental controls on Netflix.
Well, even Adriana's in grade 6 and she's like, oh yeah, I know all about Squid Game. I'm like, how do you know all about Squid Game? I have never watched it. Like I watched it when she wasn't in my house. Like they were over at their dad's for the week. And that's when I decided to finally watch it. And she's like, oh, well, my classmates told me what it is all about. And I'm like, okay, grade 6 kids should not be watching this show.
Oh.
Now, I find it interesting that out of all the episodes, they all contain Matt Groening's name except for one.
You mean like in the credits, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like at the opening credits where it says like, as creator and has his name.
Yeah.
Yep. There's one episode out of, I guess, 717 that I know of that he has not put his name on. And I bet people are like, which one? Which controversial one did he decide not to put his name on?
Well, I mean, instinctively, I would think it could be something obvious, like the first episode. Maybe you just weren't thinking and forgot to credit yourself, or, no, because even on like the Treehouse of Horror ones, they would do like play on the names a little bit in the credits, So
his name was still there.
Right. So that wouldn't be it. Like you might have like Matt growing or something or whatever, groaning or whatever,
or ghoulish or whatever,
growing. Right. Yeah, you might do something like that. I don't know.
No, you might remember that there was another Fox show called The Critic.
Yes, I do remember this show.
They had a crossover episode, and he said he did not want to be a part of that show or have his name attached to anything to do with it.
I get that, because
the Simpson crossover one, he took his name off.
It's a shameless cross promotion with a show. I can see where he didn't want that, because the Simpsons kind of exist in their own universe, really. I mean, they live in Springfield. We don't know Springfield, Illinois, Massachusetts. Like, it's just a random town. It's like Disney World. It's its own bubble. So I get that. I can see where he would not.
Well, I mean, they've had other crossovers, like they had Futurama crossover. But of course, he was much more involved with that, right? That was also part of his creative.
That wasn't that wasn't the network saying, "Hey, we got this new show to promote." And The Critic didn't last long either. But I do remember the show.
That stinks.
Do you know what Lisa's
tagline?
Yes, that was the tagline. It was voiced by John Lovitz, actually. Do you know what Lisa's first word was?
Lisa's first?
I'm sorry, Maggie's first word.
Oh, I do know, but I won't spoil it. You can say it.
Well,
I remember this episode.
Okay, because the episode is Lisa's first word, and so that's why I am an idiot and I said Lisa.
Yeah,
because
they talk about hers, and then it's Maggie gives hers at the end of the episode, right?
Yeah. Yes, and that word is Daddy.
Yep. I was floored though by who voiced it.
Oh, this was a big thing at the time.
Yeah, I did not realize
it was hyped up and it was promoted that, in the commercials that Maggie was going to speak, and it was Elizabeth Taylor,
which is incredible to me that they were able to like ask her and convince her to do it.
But that's the thing, like that's how insanely popular The Simpsons was, especially in like the early 90s. I mean, you had Michael Jackson on that show, and he was a fan, and we're not getting into the whole
all the other controversy
all the other
that can
Michael
come
Jackson
along
stuff.
with it. Yeah,
but at that point in time, he's literally the biggest pop star on the planet. I mean, that would be the equivalent, I guess, now of, based on Spotify, of getting Ed Sheeran to do it.
Ed Sheeran to go on it, which maybe he has. Who knows?
Probably has, I'm sure. In fact, I think he has, if I'm not mistaken.
Ed Sheeran on
being on The Simpsons really was like, kind of like he has been.
Yes, he voiced Brendan Biderbrecken and he in Ha Ha Land.
Okay,
I don't know who that character is. I probably butchered the name. Anyway, he was on it.
I feel like you could play like a 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon of Simpsons guest appearances. True. Like, I guarantee you, like, hey, has so and so been on that show? Yes. Or even if they haven't been, they've probably been parodied on it. But I mean, yeah, that was a big show.
Well, and Kevin Bacon did have a cameo on The Simpsons. So
there you go. Well,
he was an alternative Flanders family living outside of the dome. Just makes me giggle. That's amazing. Okay.
Well, maybe he'll have a cameo on our show next week. Spoiler alert, he won't. But join us next week for another brand new, exciting episode of The Time Machine. But before I do the big final send-off for this week, Trish, do the thing.
I'm going to do the thing. So if you have any questions, concerns, queries, or freakouts, you can reach us on the Time Machine with Trish and Mike at gmail.com, the Time Machine with Trish and Mike on Instagram. You can throw that in the Google machine and find us on YouTube, and you can leave us a voice message on Anchor.
Yes, do all that. And we will be here next week with another brand new, exciting, enthralling, entertaining, and other adjectives that I will come up with to describe that show next week. on the Time Machine.